Okay, let's go. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about organizational culture is that you can't put your finger on it, that it's like impossible to measure. And to be honest with you, for a long time, I thought a very similar thing. I kind of thought it was just the thing that you say at barbecues when people say, "How are you at this job? Like, what's it like to work there?" How wrong was I? Culture isn't just vibes. When you start to understand it, define it, and then truly measure what the impact of your culture is, it can be ridiculous. And let's be incredibly clear, everyone pays for culture, whether you're intentionally designing it or it's completely by accident. Every single culture has an ROI. ROI, that stands for return on investment. Now, before I get into this video is all about how we can start to measure and understand the impact that culture has on numbers, on metrics, on data, the stuff that puts meat on the bones. I'm talking revenue, I'm talking risk, I'm talking cost, all of those things that you can stand in front of a board and articulate very clearly why something we do has impact on the top and bottom line of our organizations. Before I get into that though, I think you have to really think about what ROI means for you. When you think about return on investment, what return are you looking for from the investment you put into your people, your environment, the way that you're working? And this varies per industry. A lot of people just jump to revenue, but that's not the case. Changing the culture at a football club means you see results on the pitch, as well as sentiment from your people, your employees. Results on the pitch result in trophies and promotions that come with revenue. But revenue is not just the output there. Telecoms, communications, agency might see return as increased customer satisfaction, which in turn yields more return rates or closer SLA tickets, whatever that means. So when we think about ROI, you've got to start by thinking about what is the return you want to see. And then the I in ROI, investment. You invest in your culture whether you realize it or not. And I go back to chapter 2 of my discussion where I introduced this brand new definition of culture. I talk about culture as our organizational brains. It's the maps, the stories that we tell ourselves through the cues and the things we see, think, and hear along our journey. It's the wires of how work gets done, the patterns of repeated behavior, and the sparks of leadership and unlearning and learning that take place. All of that is fueled by our existence, our experience, and everything that we learn, look to, and see in our organizations. And when we're measuring that investment in those areas, is it things that we repeat to do? Is it investment in capital terms, in recognition programs? Is it investment in systems to make the work and the wires happen smoother, faster? Is it investment in our EVP or purpose or big fancy websites or a new interview process? So all of it can really start to distill down to specific levels of investment. But I think what we need to do is really start to think about that culture is investable, right? And if you don't believe me, then here are some of these numbers and some of these data points. I'll put the link to the study in the chat as well. In 2013, Gallup ran a study. They went to thousands of organizations and they measured the top versus bottom quartile of employees who felt highly engaged with their workplace. Now, I'm going to interchange sometimes the word engagement with culture, and I think it's important to define what that means and that looks like. The engagement is how attached we are to our business. It's our sentiment levels. It's the level of discretionary effort we put into the work that we do. Do we feel valued, validated, and heard? Do we give a shit? Essentially, is what we're trying to get to. I always think about an engagement barometer as like a give a shit-o-meter. So like the higher your give a shit-o-meter, the more likely you are to put the extra effort in, to go above and beyond, and to feel attachment. Now, listen to some of these receipts when it comes to how do we get the data to measure impact from our cultures, right? So Gallup did this survey and they measured the top versus bottom quartile for employees on the high end of the give a shit meter, right? So top quartile engagement, top quartile organizations found profitability was 23% higher. Productivity, so the more work actions getting done within the organization, 14% higher. Production, 18% higher in sales, right? Absenteeism, 78% lower in high quartile, high engaged organizations. Turnover was 20% lower. Safety incidents reduced. Well-being, so net thriving, was 70% higher. Culture shows up in your P&L as one of those many things, right? So we think about the return. We think about performance measures like revenue, of course, but absenteeism, We think about turnover. Your good people are staying when we intentionally design cultures. So let me take that first one, right? Let's talk about how you can actually measure the revenue and the growth, right? One of the important things to note about your culture is whatever you do, if you intentionally design it and work to make the working environment for your people better or stronger, everyone, like I said at the start, pays a price. There is a cost to it. Everyone has a customer to serve, right? That customer could be walking out on the street. It could be someone listening to this video. It could be someone sitting in the stands or buying groceries. Everyone's got a customer to serve. When we intentionally design cultures the right way, people show up for their customers tenfold, right? We drive customer experience through an enhanced employee experience. And when we show up better for our people, they show up for our customers and they feel the impacts of that, right? Critical. There's a really cool example from Sears, right, in the US. Sears literally built this model that translated employee attitude into customer impressions into revenue growth. Go and have a look at the Sears case study. It's pretty cool. So the more we enhance that feeling of belonging, the more we improve our cultures by design in our organizations, the higher we can correlate their individual actions to actions that are going to improve the lives of our customers, which we can directly put back into the top line of our organization. Let's think about cost and productivity, right? I want to start with cost. One of the biggest things I learned was if you spend the organization's money like you're spending your own, you're attached more emotionally to that organization. If we're just like, oh, we'll spend it there, it doesn't matter, we'll figure it out there, would you take those behaviors and apply those to your home life? If the answer is no, then your culture isn't healthy. A healthy culture is one that really takes care of where we're investing our time, energy, and our cost to support the bottom line, right? Best Buy, good example, right? They make small changes in engagement frequently and they link that to store level operating, right? So they think about what are the one or two things we could do to improve the way that people work, and they link that directly to how stores are operating and working through. One of the final things I want to talk about ROI and culture is risk and safety. I mentioned in that Gallup survey, safety incidents for one of the organizations were 63% fewer. So we think about organizations that do carry risk, whether in construction, manufacturing, or areas where compliance is incredibly high. If you've got a culture, which I would say is unhealthy based on our living brain thoughts and ideas in this metaphor, if you've got an unhealthy culture, you're less likely to report those incidents. This all links to psychological safety and the work that Amy Evanson's doing. I'm going to do another video on psychologically safe cultures, what psychological safety is and how you can get more of it in your organization. But if you're shoving things under the carpet, you're running, hiding, lying, and faking as a result of fear for not speaking up and not sharing incidences and issues, then you're going to see safety deteriorate across your organization. ROI, return on investment. How do you figure out in your culture? Step one, define your return. What is it you want to see? What matters to you, your team, your organization? Step two, where have you actually invested? And draw, like Best Buy, draw the micro actions towards a specific decision or something that's changed within your organization, right? Step three, continue to monitor and measure, iterate those actions of improvements. The biggest killer of culture ROI is time. We live in this age where we want everything instantaneously. We need it yesterday, tomorrow. And learning, culture, and change, it does take time. You have to be brave and you have to have courage in your role as a leader, as an exec, or as a people professional to say, we have a culture change plan. We're going to ignite the sparks of change within our organization, but we're going to have that over a 12, 24-month process, and we're going to measure the small incremental things based on those micro actions that we do, and we're going to continue to tell the story of this change. You'll look back in 12 and 24 months and you'll see the journey that you've come on. Don't be afraid to put the mid-long marathon run in and not just think of it as short incremental sprints, because that really is how you're going to transform your culture and show really clear ROI. Take the long-term view, iterate the actions, call them out, measure them, be ready to pivot if you need to, but define your return and focus on your investment. I'm Nick Holmes. If you like this stuff, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a follow. It's going to continue coming. Every week I drop a new video on organizational culture, the future of work, and how we can make work more remarkable. That's ROI. I'll see you next time.
Okay, let's go.